Alrighty, I got another package here from Handheld Legend. I've ordered stuff from these guys a few times. Generally modding parts for Game Boys is really what they're known for. This package cost me about $350 Canadian. Maybe a little bit more, $360 maybe. We'll go over that. We'll go over the prices. There's a couple reasons this ended up costing a little bit more than it could have. So I'll explain that at the end. But in here we got some pretty sweet stuff. So oh, that's just like a bill. I'm going to go over all the pricing for everything here. And I might save these for last. So I got a couple of these little sleeves. These are just to hold a Game Boy, a DMG. So this is just basically a little sleeve to protect your Game Boys in. If you've got modded Game Boys, you know, you don't want the screens getting scratched and, you know, even just keeping dust off them. So these were like $5 each, US. So yeah, I got 2 of those. I got one of these just to try out. Oh, there's a couple things in here. This is a glass screen protector for a Game Gear. Tempered glass. And yeah, it looks pretty nice, so I thought I would grab one of these to try it. That was $9 US. These ones actually came with the cases, so I didn't actually pay for these. I'm going to talk about these when I get to the cases, but these are tempered glass Game Boy screens, or screen protectors. These are batteries for, mainly for Game Boy games, the battery backups in Game Boy games. You may have seen I did a battery replacement on Donkey Kong Land, and it turned out pretty badly because I didn't buy the batteries that already have these tabs spot welded to them. I had this metal wire I had to cut to size and try and get it to stick to the batteries. It's hard to solder those to the batteries and not put way too much heat into the batteries. So they sell, the batteries already has the tabs spot welded onto the battery. So it makes it a lot easier to change the battery. I've got about 3 or 4 Game Boy games now that aren't saving. I think about 4 Game Boy games now that aren't saving, so they need the batteries replaced. So I bought 6 of these. This came to about $17 for the 6, for 6 of them. We've got 2 aligning brackets for the IPS install, which just gave away one of the one of the main things in here is. These were like, $3.50 each. It's not necessary, but if you're doing the IPS replacement on a DMG, this just makes it easier to align the screen. It's just a little mounting bracket thing. So I've got actually 2 of the IPS replacement screens for DMGs. This is obviously the most expensive part here. These were about $65 US each. So we got about $130-ish just in these 2 IPS replacement screens. I got 2 DMG Game Boys with defective screens. And up until recently, there wasn't much you could do about that unless you were really, really skilled with soldering. You could try and solder a new screen on. But obviously, now we have these replacement IPS kits. It replaces the screen in a DMG Game Boy with an IPS, like a modern IPS LCD panel. Looks phenomenal, and it's fairly easy to install. So they're kind of pricey, but they've got basically 2 circuit boards. They've got a scaling board that's taking the signaling that was meant to come from a Game Boy motherboard to a Game Boy LCD screen, but obviously that needs to be totally converted. The way that the signaling works is, and the resolution and the refresh rate, everything's totally different on a DMG LCD panel from back in 1989. So this has a circuit board in here that does all the conversion for the video. to allow it to drive a modern LCD display. But also the circuit board's in here to that basically your buttons are a part of, your button contacts, because on a DMG the LCD screen is soldered to that front PCB board. So yeah, this is like a modern solution where they've got a whole circuit board that has your contrast wheel, your button contacts. It's the front circuit board that the speaker is soldered to, and then that goes to a modern LCD driver, scaling board to convert that to make that work to let you run a modern IPS LCD screen. So that will be very interesting to get those done. I have two Backlight. So these are Backlight kits for DMG or Pocket, and they're both green. I actually wanted yellow. Yellow is the best color in my opinion for contrast and ease of seeing, but they were out of yellow. So they've got a bunch of colors: purple, red, blue, green. There's an RGB one, and then there's two yellow. There's like a dark yellow and a faded yellow, or a light yellow, I guess. And they were sold out of both the yellows, but nothing else. So it's pretty obvious yellow is the most popular choice for that reason. It's the best one to see. So to me, green's the next best thing. So I got two of these. These were about $10 each. It came to $18 for two of them. So the shells. These are brand new replacement shells for the DMG, and they're of a much higher quality than any of the previous replacement shells that have been available for DMGs. These are an ABS plastic, much higher quality, and just the tolerances are much closer to a real DMG case compared to the replacement cases that have been out in the past. These are fairly new, and these are about $19 US a piece, which sounds like a lot because it's twice as expensive as the replacement cases that have been out before. But oh yeah, just the battery compartment, you can tell this is better. The replacement case that I had before, you really had to push and almost bend the plastic before this clipped in. This fits on just like a stock battery compartment, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but to me that's instantly a sign that the tolerances on this are much closer than a real, than the older replacement cases. The thing with these is they come with the replacement buttons, and they come with the replacement silicone membranes, and they came with the replacement tempered glass screen protectors. So the cheaper cases in the past came with the buttons, but not the button membranes, and they came with a plastic screen, but not a tempered glass plastic screen. And by the time you bought a tempered glass replacement screen and the membranes, these are actually the same price as what the cheaper cases were. So you're basically getting a higher quality case for the same price if you were going to buy the tempered glass screens and replacement membranes anyways. So I got a clear black one. It's maybe hard to tell without the light. That's slightly transparent on the black one. And then I got this slime green one. This thing feels awesome. It has a slightly soft texture to it. It feels a little bit different than a real Game Boy. Oh, it's white on the inside. That's a little disappointing, to be honest. I wasn't expecting that on this one. So it looks like the color. Well, hey, that still fits nicely. No excessive force required on that to close the battery compartment. But anyways, the fit and finish on these is phenomenal. And they're pre-cut. So when you do the IPS mod on a Game Boy, there's a couple of posts up here, and there's a third little, I don't know what you would call that, but reinforcement sort of notch up in here that you have to cut out. These are made to take the IPS replacement screens just right out of the box. So they don't even have the posts there. And it's not like the posts were there and they were cut. I've seen pre-cut cases sold before. You can tell that the posts weren't even there as part of the molding. Nothing's been cut. Same with right here. So these are just made from the get-go to fit the IPS screen. And so again, I have 2 Game Boys with broken screens. They both have really yellowed cases. So I've got 2 replacement cases with the IPS screen. Again, that replaces the front circuit board, and these come with the membranes and the buttons. So literally we're just taking the motherboard itself. Even the battery contacts are in here. Right? The metal battery contacts are in here. We're literally just taking the motherboard and the speaker out of an old Game Boy. And you're going to have basically like a brand new Game Boy with a modern IPS LCD display. These are the V3, if anyone's curious. This is the 3rd revision of this. It's called like the RIPS IPS LCD. V2, I think, had an issue with the color. The colors weren't right. This does give you some color options. It's kind of like having an RGB backlight. You can toggle the colors. I'll show that when I build one of these, which is going to be basically the next video. We'll do one of these up. But yeah, these are the V3, so they fixed that. And I think the button contacts, because this board is where your button contacts are, I think the early ones, people said that maybe the responsiveness of the button contacts wasn't quite as good. Apparently that's fixed with the V3, so we'll see. And again, I got the aligning brackets. These aren't necessary, but seems to be recommended. When you're putting the screen in, you got to make sure it's lined up, centered. And these have 2 holes which hook over, I think it's these 2 posts, or maybe it's these 2 posts, the shorter ones there, but basically this just drops in a way that it aligns the screen for you. Your LCD screen sort of fits in there. So not necessary, but recommended. So yeah, everything here adds up to, I think, about $230 US, which definitely isn't $350, $360 Canadian. So there's 2 other things that happened here. They were offering free shipping at the time when I made this order. So I could have got free shipping. But I've ordered from these guys a couple of times before, and I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos where I had ordered some stuff from these guys, that it did take a long time to arrive. It took about a week and a half to 2 weeks. And that was before the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I know that the U.S. Postal Service is, probably overworked right now. Here, certainly Canada Post is certainly overworked, so I could only imagine how long this would have taken to arrive, and it could have got lost in the mail. Canada Post, I've heard lately, it's a little more common with stuff getting lost in the mail, because they're just so far behind, and there's just so much stuff, right? So I did pay for, was it DHL? So I paid $40, I think it was $40 US, to have this shipped DHL. And this came from, I think, Pennsylvania, and I got this in 3 days, which is amazing. That's actually faster than I was expecting it to get here. And that's DHL, so that doesn't come to me via Canada Post once it gets across the border. That's DHL the whole way. So I figured it was probably more secure, more likely to get here, undamaged, and certainly it was a lot quicker. 3 days was surprising from Pennsylvania to get here. Again, during a pandemic. So I guess that was my choice. I made that decision. But the other thing I didn't realize is after I made the order and it was shipping on its way, I got a thing from the border saying that I owed duty fees, and that was $57 Canadian, so that was in Canadian funds. But yeah, I had to pay $57 in duty and border fees. We add this all up now. I think we're over $350 Canadian. But it's going to be awesome. I'm going to have 2 awesome Game Boys with awesome IPS screens, and I'm fixing 2 Game Boys that right now are broken, with broken screens. So it's expensive, but to me it's worth it. It's going to be worth it. So yeah, next video we'll be doing one of these ones. Not sure which one we'll do, but see you guys later.